Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of GC Live. I'm your host, Jack Veltri. As always, joined by my friend and co-host, former South Carolina right-handed pitcher and 2010 College World Series champion, Ethan Carter. Ethan, how we doing, my man?
Doing great, man. Can't complain. Can't believe it's about to be July. That's something that dawned on me. But yeah, man, no complaints here. How about yourself? How was Detroit?
Detroit was cool. I've had a few people that I've mentioned it to. They'll be like, "Oh, Detroit? Like what?" Like, and they think it's like this scary town that has a lot of crime. Which honestly, that was my thought on it too. But going out there, I mean, it's a good time, man. It's
Nice.
it's pretty calm out there. Honestly, maybe at night it's a different story. But like even when I was out there at night, it really wasn't like of course you have your homeless people out there, of course, and some sketchy parts, but like overall, it was a great time. Went to the Yankee game on Monday. Yankees lost, unfortunately, so of course they went and won the next two games against the Tigers this week. But nah, man, I can't complain. It was a good time, nice little getaway. I didn't realize Canada is like right there, right next to Detroit. So yeah, I think it's Windsor. That's right. That's right there. So I mean, the border was like on the other side of the water there, which is pretty cool. So, I got to try a coney dog for the first time. I mean, that was it was a good time out there. I'll say that. It was a lot of fun. Detroit's a cool place. I would definitely recommend going and checking out. Comerica Park is really nice. I liked it out there. Good bar scene out there. So a good time overall.
Very, very nice. Yeah, no, that's one of the ones I haven't had the pleasure of checking out yet. So yeah, definitely moving to the top of the list.
No, definitely. You got to make your way out there, man. It's a good time. But anyway, appreciate all of you guys tuning in. As always, we are back and we have a lot to talk about. South Carolina baseball, the offseason rolls on. Obviously, by now, we talked about it at length that Kevin Schnall is the next head coach of this program. So no new ground to break there. The staff is pretty much at this point finalized at this point. We've talked about that before. Now it's the next order of business here. Well, they're putting together the roster for the 2027 season. They've had a lot of pieces come in that we've talked about already, but more are continuing to trickle in. And we have a few more to talk about that have come in over the last 2 days. Yesterday, the commitment from shortstop J.D. Stein from Wake Forest. That is a guy that right now, with KJ Scobie going to Texas Tech, you kind of view Stein as your everyday shortstop heading into next season until proven otherwise. Of course, there will be a competition at that position, I'm sure, when it comes time for the fall. And I'm sure they're going to add more infield depth between now and the start of fall practice. So Stein's the guy at shortstop right now. That could always change, but he's a guy that started, I think it was 58 games as a freshman this past season. And, hit 266, didn't hit for a ton of power. But, his defense made some errors out there in the field. I believe he had double-digit errors in the infield. So that is something that can be worked upon, improved. But starting as a freshman, a guy that's going to be partaking in Team USA national camp this summer, I mean, that's pretty good to me.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I think great. That's definitely a big time pickup, especially with the middle infield looking a little uncertain. Up until that commitment, and I know there's some other guys they're looking at, but I think that definitely helps solidify kind of what the up the middle could look like for the guys moving forward.
Yeah, so I think he's someone that is probably like a bottom of the order kind of bat, but I think that's fine. I think you like having a scrappy kind of bat like that can hit for contact at the bottom of the order. Shoot, I mean, if you need him to hit leadoff, he can swipe some bags, so that is good to see. So yeah, I think that is a viable replacement for trying to get the next guy that's going to take over with KJ Scobie leaving for Texas Tech, like I said. And then today, a relief pitcher joins the fold from Georgia, Jordan Stevens, a right-handed pitcher that pitched for the Bulldogs the last 2 years. He's a guy that I sent you the clip before we got on here.
Yeah.
The guy throws absolute gas. He is, yes, this is correct, Jeffrey. He is throwing 100 miles an hour. So hard throwing right-handed pitcher, primarily out of the bullpen during his time at Georgia, made 35 appearances, only 2 starts. Struggled a bit this year. His ERA was in the 7s, but when he was on it, he was on it. In 25, which was still a very good Georgia team, he had an ERA in the 3s. So this is a guy that I think has some room to grow. I think from a strikeout to walk standpoint, you'd like to see the walks come down a little bit, but you can't teach throwing 100 miles an hour. So if you can figure out how to control that and harness it, and maybe he becomes like a late inning guy for you, a closer type. He's had some save opportunities before at Georgia. Maybe this is a guy that you have paired with like a Dominic Carbone at the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, you can't teach that kind of stuff. So I think just kind of looking at it, the walks were kind of a big, probably his main issue, this past year. So excited to get him paired up with someone like Coach Williams, and see what he can extract out of that and what kind of game plan he has for him. Because that, if you can kind of get that reined in a little bit and get that control kind of dialed in, that's a huge weapon that you can have, at the back end of games. Like you said, pairing him with, a lefty like Carbone, you have a little righty lefty matchup you can play with, at the end of games. And that can really pay dividends, when you get, especially in the heart of these SEC matchups with, trying to, play little matchup games.
Yeah, so there's your latest 2 additions for South Carolina. At this point, they are continuing to stack up the portal commitments. They're now up to 14 transfers joining the program. Of course, a good majority, about half of them are coming from Coastal Carolina, but that's to be expected when you're bringing in a coach that comes from another school with a lot of talent. So no surprise there. And then they have, as of late, of course, added a lot of transfers from other schools. They added Andrew Costello last week, a catcher from Wake Forest. Tyler Pitzer, obviously, is coming back home from Mississippi State. So there's a lot to like about the transfers that they've brought into this point. Now, the other side of the discussion is, okay, well, they're continuing to add pieces. What more do they need for this roster? Because the roster at this point is not complete yet. They're still going to be adding guys. Of course, you have a few players returning to South Carolina. So when we look at this roster, you got 3 catchers with the program right now. I'm just going to run through it. 3 catchers.
Yep.
You have 3 infielders. 2 outfielders. You have Patrick Evans coming back as a utility guy, so he could be in the infield or outfield. You have Jackson Weiner, who's a 2-way that could play first base, and he's a pitcher. Then you have Brandon Cromer, who's also a 2-way that you have in the outfield as well, but he's also a left-handed pitcher. And then as far as pitching goes, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 right-handed pitchers. And that's including Ant Phillips, by the way. Not sure exactly what he's doing yet. He's not formally announced anything. I think we're really going to find out after the draft. And if he gets selected, we'll see if he goes. If not, I would imagine he'll be back here next year. And then you have 3 left-handed pitchers. So the roster's coming together, Ethan, but it's not all the way there yet. So when I look at this, I still think, they're obviously going to be waiting on the decision of what Will Craddock's going to do. He visited South Carolina last week. And I say visited, he met with South Carolina last week. It's not really a visit. He's here in Columbia. And then he's going to Georgia and Mississippi State as the other 2 schools this week. So hopefully, now that it's Thursday, there should potentially be an answer, maybe by the end of the week. We'll see. But I feel like a decision on that is going to come rather soon. Yeah, I'm not really expecting – I don't know if I would expect a ton of other returners to come back. I feel like the guys that have entered the portal are going to be in the portal, and that's it. Like, a lot of them have already found homes, like Jake McCoy is going to Tennessee. So that's one of the latest ones. The only ones that haven't made a decision yet are like Stone, Riley Goodman, Craddock again, Bo Hollins, nothing yet. But I don't think he's coming back to South Carolina. Like Hudson Lee, I don't expect him to be back. Eric Parker, to my knowledge, has not heard anything from South Carolina. Alex Philpott just entered the portal the other day. Connor Ciccoli still hasn't figured anything out yet. So there are guys that still have decisions to make. But I think at this point, if you're looking at guys that are going to come back to South Carolina potentially, you're probably looking most at Craddock and Goodman as potential options. But I will ask you, when you look at the roster, where do you feel like – this is a two-part question. Where do you feel like they are better at right now than they were this past season? And where do you feel like they really still need to attack in the portal?
I love where their depth is at the pitching right now, with the understanding that there's going to be a couple more guys that they add somewhere, whether it's, or obviously it's going to be the portal, but whether it's, like Riley Goodman coming back or, get a couple other arms. And I feel really good about the depth. I think the pitching staff, I thought the staff was great last year, but, with some injuries, you saw that depth really get tested, and some guys just kind of ran out of steam towards the end of the year. And like I said, that could have been ready for the season to be over with. They were just kind of run down, but so I really like where the depth of the pitching staff is right now. I think they obviously need some outfielders. You read off that, when you read the list, 2 outfielders right now. I know Patrick Evans can play a little bit of everywhere. But when you're looking at the roster right now, you really have 2, maybe 3 outfielders on the roster. So I am interested to see where that comes. I know you mentioned Andrew Costello's catcher that's coming in. He from Wake Forest. He's on campus with his brother, who might fill one of those spots in the outfield. He was a very good. I think he hit over 300 with 17 home runs last year for Wake Forest. So that would be a big get. But yeah, kind of where I want to see is they need a little more depth on the infield really just position group. They need to figure out a little bit more depth and create some position battles there. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking, where they can still make some improvements is that infield and that outfield.
Yeah, you mentioned Luke Costello there, who will be, visiting with his brother Andrew this week. He was at Wake Forest the last 2 years and put up some really good numbers. As a freshman, his first year there in 25. Hit 290, 10 homers, 28 RBIs in 131 at-bats. Then more plate appearances this year, more time out there at Wake this season. 17 homers, 62 ribbies, 302 average, 1.085 OPS. This is a guy that can definitely mash and someone that really could do a lot of good here at South Carolina if they are going to be able to bring him in. Time will tell on that one. He is an outfielder, so that is definitely a need that South Carolina has. I will say, I think the needs right now are I think you need at least 2 more outfielders. I think we'll see what happens with Cromer and where ultimately you put Evans. But right now you got Tyler Bach and Evan Batone. Like, those are your 2 guys that we know are outfielders for sure. You need to kind of get more guys in their depth pieces. So Costello would obviously be a day 1 starter on this team, Luke, that is. But we'll see if they're able to get him here. I think it does help, though, that he is coming. He was at Wake Forest, which is where Bill Salento, South Carolina's new hitting coach, did come over from, and that's where his brother Andrew also came over from.
Yes,
infielder. I mean, Craddock, I think. He could play all over. He could play first base.
Yes.
He can play second. He can play third. He can play short. He can play anywhere in the infield. If we're looking at this infield right now, Walker Mitchell's going to be starting somewhere, whether it's at second or third base. J.D. Stein is your shortstop right now. You have Miles Keogh coming in as a freshman. He's a middle infielder. We'll see if he has a chance to play right away. And then beyond that, I mean, you have Evans, who can also play in the middle infield, and I think he's another guy that can also play literally anywhere in the infield at this point. But yeah, you definitely want to go ahead and probably add, if you can get a Craddock here, great. You find a place for him in that infield. If not, opens up the door to go out there and go get maybe a few more guys. But I do think you probably need, I don't know how many guys you need really. I think I think at least 2 to 3 more guys in that infield. What do you think on that?
Yeah, no, I think to your point, I think Will Craddock kind of solves like an issue, like the depth issue there, because again, he can play first. I think he fits best with this group at first, but he can clearly play pretty much any of the infield positions. So I think getting Craddock would kind of solidify that, and then you are just looking for somebody that can push competition for Walker, for Stein, Keogh, who knows? Freshman, man, he could come in here and light the world on fire. Freshman can do that. But you don't want to put your eggs all in Miles Keogh being the prime backup if something were to happen. So yeah, I think you're spot on. I think a couple more infielders. When you look at the outfield, Bach is a good center fielder. So you don't necessarily have to go out and get, top of the line center field to cover that. You're looking for corner outfield guys who have some pop now. I think kind of the way the roster's built, you got a lot of your schnall ball guys, Anson Pants offense. I think they've got a lot of those guys now. The next thing is bringing in some guys that can provide a little thump. To once those guys get on and create that havoc, you got guys that can drive them in and drive them in with some big flies. So I think Craddock's very important. I'd love to see Will back on campus, playing in the Garnet and Black again, and then another depth infield piece, and then probably 1 or 2 outfielders that have some pop.
We'll continue this conversation in just a second, but real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. He is in the mortgage, that is, and he can help you get a home, help you out with your mortgage, any of those housing needs that create some confusion for you that you have questions about. Get in contact with him at 803-422-6797. His NMLS number is 71597, or go to clinthammond.com for more information. And Clint's been in the mortgage industry for over 20 years now. He's a lifelong Gamecock fan. He's also a longtime supporter of Gamecock Central, and he's been the presenting sponsor of GC Live for as long as I can remember, since I've been here at GC for a few years now. So he's the man. Get in contact with him. All his information is above us here on screen. If you have any questions about housing, mortgage, any of those needs that you may have. All right, let's continue the conversation here. So we're talking about South Carolina from a roster standpoint with what they need to add. I think we're pretty much set on them needing to probably add more infield and outfield. That feels like a given. Pitching wise, when you look at the breakdown of what they've got, I think, and you get the question here. I think we have it somewhere. Any guys that could potentially go to the draft. So you don't have to worry about Jake McCoy anymore because he's at Tennessee now. And I think honestly, him, the only thing I'll say about him is that he's a top 150 MLB draft prospect. He's a guy that's going to be picked at some point pretty early on in that draft. With everything going on in the MLB, with the lockout probably happening next year, and all this CBA stuff that is way above our pay grade here, I think he's a guy that's probably turning pro.
Yes.
Just the potential, the way he's viewed, I would be shocked if he's at Tennessee next year. Like if he's there, I'd be very shocked. You don't have to worry about Alex Philpott either because he's also in the transfer portal, and he's a guy that is an invitee to the MLB Combine this week, so don't have to worry about him. There weren't any coastal guys that got invited to the Combine that are coming to South Carolina, so no need to worry about that. I mean, really the only guys I would maybe right now, I'll have to do some digging on this. The only guys I could really see as being like potential, like Amp's definitely a guy that you got to watch for. I think Amp Phillips is someone that keep an eye on just to see what happens with him. I think another guy is a freshman catcher that will be joining the program next year. As of right now, is Elaine Gomez Guadino, who is been committed to South Carolina this whole time through the coaching change with Schnall taking over. I think it's very important to get him on campus because you got Bryce Eastep, who's a senior. You got Costello, who's a sophomore. But Guadino is a guy that seems to be viewed very highly by South Carolina, and that's someone that I think that you'll be watching very closely at the draft. I think we talked about this before, Ethan, but like with catchers, I think you're typically going after the college guys first before the high school guys, unless they're like this can't miss prospect. And we'll see what happens with Guadino, but that's another name that I would say is very interesting to keep an eye on with the draft coming up next month.
Yeah, no, and you know those conversations are happening, and there are definitely some contingency plans in there. But yeah, I think Guadino is kind of the one to keep an eye on. Obviously, like I said, Amp being he will be a true senior next year.
Yes.
So that could play. He has technically a little bit of leverage right now if he were to get picked, but I know a lot of that with the slot values and everything's pretty locked down on those now. But yeah, I mean, if you could get Guadino on campus, that would be huge. Because again, that just provides that depth. You have Estep, who is a small guy. He can kind, especially with all the turnover on this roster. He's a true senior. He'll probably step into a real leadership role in this team. If I had to, make a wild assumption off people I've never met. But a senior catcher coming over with the head coach and the whole coaching staff. I could see him really be a real leader, which would be good for a freshman to come in there. And having a freshman and sophomore catching duo behind a 4-year senior, that could be huge, for the program moving forward. So I definitely think that. Quick question: the transfer portal closes on the 30th, correct?
Yes. Let's preface. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm sure there's still always some confusion. We mentioned it a million times, but what's one more, right? So the portal closes in 5. Well, yeah, because there's only 30 days in June.
Yeah,
it will close next Tuesday, June 30th. That does not mean that is when you can't make any more portal additions. Like, you can make portal additions literally whenever you want, basically. For the season. South Carolina will definitely be adding more players to this roster after July 4th, I'm sure. Like, the roster will not be fully finalized, complete, until we get probably towards August. Like, because you got the draft coming up in about 3 weeks' time, and with the All-Star break. So that's when you're really going to, okay, are any guys getting drafted? Are any guys going pro? That could change things with this roster. Again, just because some guys weren't invited to the combine does not mean they can't get picked between now and then. Because what's the draft now? 20 rounds? Is that right?
20 rounds. Yep.
Yeah. And again, this is a big year with the draft because the lockout's coming next year, probably. Yeah. All this CBA stuff with like how it affects high schoolers, and potentially like high schoolers might not be able to be draft eligible in a few years. Like it's very wild what's going on potentially. So I think just to have some assurances, like if you're picked high enough, bet on yourself, go pro. Yep. I think we're going to see a lot of guys do that. Now, how many get picked from the South Carolina team? I really don't know. I mean, again, that's an answer I will hopefully have here closer to that date, but and we can talk more about it then. But I mean, I would imagine it won't be too many guys because most of the guys from South Carolina transferred out, and not that I see a ton of them getting picked anyway, but it is, I mean, like it's just true. I mean, they have had 24 guys leave the program, and a lot of the coastal guys coming in. I mean, a few of them are coming off major surgeries, like Hayden Johnson.
That's exactly what I was.
Arbone. I mean,
those two would be the kind of in the Jake McCoy camp of they came off a big injury maybe, but McCoy had a little bit more buzz than those guys, rightfully so. I mean, with what he did in the Cape, but yeah, like those two would be kind of the somebody takes a flyer and maybe they go. But to your point, they both coming off injuries from last year. They're redshirt juniors, both of them, I believe. So like they've got some skin in the game to go, or some incentive to go in and have big years this year, and then do the draft again next year.
Yeah. So again, portal closes June 30th for all players to enter. Once June 30th is over, you can't enter the portal anymore. You may have a few stragglers come in just through the process of getting into the portal, but yeah, I think by now most guys have kind of figured out. Okay, I really don't know why you'd be entering the portal on June 30th. Like, I really could not tell you on that one. And then,
no, I mean, there's been some late, again, I think, what was it? Luke Costello just entered the portal technically.
Philpott entered the other day. I mean, like it's not uncommon, I would say, but it just feels like if you kind of know what you're doing, you're entering as soon as it opens. And then they'll add more guys after June 30th. So again, I'm sure we'll have to mention that again, but it's just clarification that the portal closing on June 30th does not mean you can't make any more roster moves. It's not like it's a trade deadline sort of thing. There's time to still build this roster the way they see fit. So kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. So the pitching staff, this is where this whole conversation kind of went. You've got some guys coming back. Right now, as things stand, Phillips, Parks, Marlott, I guess technically Pitzer. Those are like the 4 guys, 3 really from last year's team that are coming back. You've got a few freshmen coming in, a few guys from Coastal, a JUCO transfer. How do we feel about this pitching staff right now?
I love the staff. I definitely think they need 1 or 2 more guys that could possibly start. Again, with Hayden Johnson coming off surgery, Carbone coming off surgery, maybe losing Ant Phillips to the draft. I'd love to see Riley Goodman back on campus. I don't know how realistic that is at this point, but he'd be one I'd love to have back. I'd like Brandon Stone to come back. I think Brandon Stone is a very serviceable arm for any college program. He has experience doing both the relieving and the starting. He kind of fits that swing mold that I know a lot of teams are looking for, especially when it comes to playoff time. But I love the way the staff looks. I think they are 1 or 2 possible starting candidates, or at least, guys that can push for that role away from being a top tier staff. And again, some of this is you're really banking on guys coming back from injury. You really are banking Hayden Johnson and Dominic Carbone are the guys they were pre-surgery. So I think if that happens, get 1 or 2 more guys. I think the staff rocks. Like I'm very excited about watching these guys, pitch. And we got that other addition from Georgia. I think they're smartly rounding out the edges of this, in that we've got guys with pure stuff that can play up. We've got some guys that got experience, and just some guys that have done it before. So I'm thrilled with it. I'm excited to see how it turns out, what the final product looks like. But they're definitely 2 or 3 arms away from this thing being done.
And I think at this point, if my math is correct, I believe you've got 25 players on this roster right now. Again, that includes Amp. I'm including him on this because we have not seen anything one way or another on what's happening there. I believe at this point you could add 9 more players to meet your 34 scholarships. So there is still work to do on this roster. And I think in terms of impact guys, Ethan, I think you're probably looking at, what'd you say, 2 or 3 more guys on the pitching staff probably?
Yeah. I think, to your point of just true impact, can factor into this staff in a major way. I think you're about 2 or 3 out. And then obviously, just getting bodies, to your point, you get to that 34 scholarship, player on the roster. So I think they're obviously, and like I said, I think the pitching staff is much closer to being done than the position player side of it.
Agreed. Because
So
right now, I mean, the way you look at things, I think you've got your rotation to some
Yep.
degree. Hayden Johnson will be probably in there. Amp
Yep.
Phillips for sure if he's back.
Yep.
I think you throw Luke Jones into the mix there as your third starter on the weekends.
Yep.
Maybe you add one or two more guys with starting experience that can come in, maybe be a midweek guy. Maybe they end up being a starter on the weekend. I don't know exactly. I think you probably are looking to add a few more guys on the pitching staff. And then, of course, you've got to go ahead and add more infield, outfield depth. So they will eventually get the roster filled up. Like they will get to their 34 or whatever the final number ends up being between now and then. It's just, okay, how many impact guys left do we really feel like they need? Probably like infield wise, you need another starter somewhere. So that's at least one. You need another starting outfielder, maybe two. I don't know a ton about Batone. Other than that, he came from Marshall, hit pretty well.
He had good numbers. Yeah.
But like, is he like a day one starter? I don't know. It's a good box. Probably your starting center fielder again this year. So like, you're talking about one more starting infielder somewhere, probably two more starting outfielders potentially. And then you're adding, I don't think you need one more weekend guy potentially, depending on how things look. Yep. I mean, I don't know. And then bullpen, I think you're just trying to get more guys. So I think the roster is coming together nicely, like we've talked about. I mean, I think you feel pretty good. What about catcher? I feel like we really haven't talked a ton about that. We talked a little bit about Guadino, but Estep, I feel like you mentioned him earlier, Ethan. I feel like he's probably the guy you want to have in there if all things go well. Not the best hitting catcher in the world, but I think he's your best defensive catcher right now for sure. And he's managed this pitching staff with all these coastal guys coming in before and has done a really good job. So that also matters. Like I think you take the defense and the managing of the pitching staff and the familiarity there with working with Matt Williams and those guys over the offense. Offense, you have eight other guys in the lineup. There's only one guy behind the plate. That's a very important guy to have back there. So I feel like Estep's probably that guy. I don't think you're going to be adding another catcher, but we'll see on that end.
No, I think they only add a catcher if it's being communicated to them, because these guys know, like these guys are talking to agents and draft guys too. If it's clear that Guadino is gone, like, or that he's probably going, then they'll probably add one more catcher. But as it stands, Guadino, Estep, and Costello, I think is a nice trio. Like I said, I love that you have a veteran guy who, again, has worked with a lot of the guys on staff. Then you have two younger guys that can kind of take that, that role. Because as good as he is, I'm praying, I am hoping we're not going to have another season where we have one catcher catch 50 games. I really do hope that we have a little more mix there to give our catchers a breather every now and then. So I think there's definitely innings to be had there, some playing time to earn, and I'm excited about how the catching's set up. They definitely need probably two corner infielders and two corner outfielders. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. There's still some big guys in the portal. I know that they're hoping to get a couple more guys on campus that could maybe have an impact on the roster. And we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. But they have a plan. To your point, that this roster is starting to take shape, and it's starting to look good. And like I said, based on the coaching staff that's been put together, the players that they've got coming in, barring, it just kind of falling flat on its face, here the next month or two, this is a team that's going back to the postseason. I feel very strongly about that, barring injuries, all this, all that. But the team on paper the way it's set up looks like a team that's getting back to postseason baseball.
I agree. I feel pretty good about where things are at right now. And I don't expect this team to be Omaha contenders by any means, but hey, they can always surprise. And the other thing is they with the roster additions and whatnot, there's going to be more on the way. Like we've seen the coaching staff put out their little welcome home tweets, all that stuff. They kind of do the teases. So there's more coming. I don't know the exact count at this point. I think there's been a ton of tweets that put out there. So at this point, it could be a few. So this roster will be getting closer to being finished here sooner rather than later. I think once the draft comes by and goes, we kind of will know, okay, what does this real roster actually look like? And you mentioned getting back to the postseason. We'll kind of round out the whole discussion here with this question from Big Red. Do you think that a fresh start with a coach and a full offseason will be the answer to our woes in baseball? I would say, yeah. I don't know about like right away. I think when you're talking about the answer, what does the answer look like? Does that mean Omaha? Because if it's Omaha, then it's going to probably. I don't think it's going to be next year. I'll put it that way. In a couple of years, sure, anything can happen. But as far as like getting back to the postseason, Ethan, I think that's very much on the table. That should be the goal for next season. Everyone's going to say on paper, like in front of the media and all that, the goal is to get to Omaha. We're going to get there, all this and that. But I think deep down, everybody, fans, everyone knows the goal for this program next season should be to get just back to the postseason. That, to me, would be job well done, huge first step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I think as this college baseball postseason showed us more than even a few in the past, you get to the postseason, anything happens, man. And I think the way this team's being built, that they're building a good playoff roster, or a good tournament roster. So, I don't think expectations should be right off the bat. We got to get to Omaha. But I definitely think this staff, that the way the staff was put together, the way that they've attacked this portal, and the guys they've brought in and the guys they're shooting to bring in, this just feels like a team that is reinvigorated, or a program that's reinvigorated. Obviously, it's a new team. It's a program that's being reinvigorated, and I'm excited to watch it. And I think that's been lacking the last couple of years. There hasn't been much excitement to go out and watch these guys. And I think this is a team that is going to be excited to play baseball, excited to be at the field every day. And that can be infectious when it comes to like the environment and everything. So I think it's definitely a fresh start was needed. You've got a coach that wants to be here and has put in the work already. And I just think that's only going to continue to grow and manifest into good things.
Yeah, it definitely will. So we'll see where it goes with this team. Again, there's still to be figured out, a long time to go until we get to next season. Real quick, before we get out of here, guys, also tell you guys about one more show sponsor, a new show sponsor as far as I'm aware, Zen AI, spelled ZENAI. So if you are interested in launching a sports podcast this summer, well, Zen AI can help you out. It is a vibecast, a conversation. It turns something into worth sharing. So it is the home of vibecasting, a new way to capture and share conversations. Zen AI is paying new vibecasters to create their first vibecast. You can create a sports cast about your favorite team. You can do it live as the game is going on, or you can record your analysis afterwards. You can bring your co-host, or you can find someone else who loves sports to talk to in Zen AI's network. It's portable, it's quick, it's a pretty simple process, and it is a great way to talk about sports. That is something that you are interested in doing. So go to zen.ai to sign up, and it's a great way to get involved in talking about sports. So thank you, Zen AI. All right, Ethan, before we get on out of here, any final thoughts to share before we wrap up?
I'm excited to see what happens. Like I said, I know, or I believe, based on some reporting you guys and the Big Spur have done, I believe we've got a few guys on campus this weekend. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And if we get a couple more, or like you said, the staff has already put out some teaser tweets here. So I expect we'll see a couple more commitments, come in today or tomorrow, but we'll just have to wait on that. But yeah, no, it's just I'm excited to see what the kind of the final touches are. I know there's one guy out there that's a big name that I know the staff's working to try to get on campus, which fingers crossed. But yeah, man, I'm just excited. Are there any names to watch for, anything to kind of keep an eye on that you've been seeing?
Yeah, I'd say Luke Costello is probably one to keep an eye on since he's coming to campus. So that's one that'd be a huge guy you want to bring in there. 300 hitter, 17 homers, over 1,000 OPS. Like that's a guy that, like, you're talking about adding power to this team. That's the type of guy you want to have in that lineup. So
yeah,
I think they're going to be able to do the snowball stuff, but you got to be able to hit for power. So that's one right there. Of course, you got to keep an eye on the Will Craddock situation. He's already visited South Carolina. He's going to be visiting these other SEC schools this week. So we will see what on that note. But that's going to do it for us for now. We've dove into a lot of this roster and whatnot, and feels like they're kind of getting it kind of coming together a little bit here. So more additions are going to be on the way. So be sure to stay tuned to GamecockCentral.com as well as TheBigSpur.com for all coverage, updates, so much more. We've got plenty of baseball coverage going on so far this summer and more to come throughout the rest of the summer heading into fall practice. So that'll do it for us for now. For Gamecock Central, I'm Jack Veltri, as always, joined by Ethan Carter, former College World Series champion and South Carolina right-handed pitcher. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.